Slides. Oh, there you go. Okay, yes, solutions to a new way forward, 31 years of socially engaged practice. So this bit I'm looking in here is 2007 to 2021. It's a journey of transition, and it came out of basically overwhelm and a sort of a collapse, which was triggered by both my parents dying and having to look after them with me and my family. And so me and my wife were both looking after two dying people over 2 years, and it made us crash. It was too much, two self-employed people. And this thing came out of it. So it's Creative Nature HQ is a limited company. It's a business, it's a collective, and it's an arena to collaborate. So it started off with me working with a young intern I've been working with, mentoring for years, and he noticed the pain I was going through, and we explored ways of getting out of it. And we started to list things, boundaries and limits, and we used to draw, and he's a brilliant drawer, and he's a member of the collective. And we explored through drawing, through poetry, through music, a way forward. And so we wrote down things, environmentally sustainable. So it was a big part of, I don't want to be part of the problem, I want to be part of the solution. So it's environmentally sustainable. So these are boundaries and the limits of what I want as a new future. To get people outdoors, that was including myself. All of this is for me. Joyful expression of life. It was about slowing down. It was about nuance. It was about connecting to elemental aspects of the world. It was being equally as ambitious as I've always been, but it was being sustainable with that. It was being inclusive, and it was being across the board, not just dealing with high-flying collective professionals who are at the higher end of the social scale and who are getting nastier and nastier by the moment. So here is a little sculpture which is about love, compassion, empathy, and joy. I'd worked in forms ranging from extreme impermanence to unbelievable permanence, and that included budgets and timeframes. So things from a couple of week build to things 2-year build. And I love this piece. This was a big cardboard piece. I'm a massive fan of cardboard. This is my path to creative nature. This is 2016. This is in the middle of the turmoil. This is me using my studio as a holding position, as a place for my sanity, but it was all very modest. I was working with community stuff. It's all about change. It's about positive affirmations, about self-determination. But this little sculpture down here was made for the Lambeth Open. It was outside my house, and it was how I felt emotionally. It was, I felt like this moved with the wind and span round. It felt like I was very disorientated. I couldn't find anything to grasp onto of any value. And this circle here flipped up and would go up like that, and it just, with the wind, it was a kind of a balance thing, but it was all about chaos and instability. And so that's what I was feeling. Then I looked at processes to free myself and my friend. This is Robin here, who's this guy here, he's what I call my surrogate son. He's brilliant comrade and brother in supporting me and himself and other artists in finding a way forward. So we started with this question, which was the impossible and downright frustrating obstacle of switching off the mind. And we were invited to do a big thing at a new launch at an architectural office for a design week. And we made joy-inducing machines. It was machines of absurdity. We were mocking the superficial nature of design and the veneer of things. And it all started with this tiny little picture here, which was machines of change. And we created physical machines that were like sort of fairground attractions that got you to interact and then got us onto exploring very serious subjects that you wouldn't be able to do without this playful, mocking, joyful, participatory way of working. So there was things about manifesting something better than the world we were in. These were these machines. This is a projector of hope that you wear on your back. You talk into it and you amplify your intentions for the world. So we were moving away from the veneer of design. Then we're coming up with words. I'm very dyslexic, so words have very fluid meaning for me. They're very powerful, but they work in a very different way to a linear thought. So this sculpture on the left here, this was a thing about protecting the essence of myself. I felt under attack by myself, my own mental ability, and also by the economic pressures of living in London and running large sculptural projects. This is a beautiful project we've done with the school, and it was all about exploring words that nurtured creativity. So speak softly, there's no genius without a little madness. The idea that people don't like the lack of control, and we're being more and more hemmed in. So it's about intuitive making. Then we got onto this is the master plan. We're now deciphering all these thousands of little meetings, and we're starting to now put form to our idea. And this was what it was. The creative nature was the idea of we want to connect with our inherent creative nature. You're in the center of that. It's an arena in which to collaborate. And then we had our five sort of keywords: to weave, to draw, to carve, to build, and to cast. They were both literal and metaphysical, metaphorical words. Each of them defines something. So this is a lot of work, to get to this. This is about 6 months of working, doing mad little projects and editing down what we thought was special and important. And what we're up against with it was this phrase that we keep using: it's all just been reduced to numbers. We're all being told we're doing these things that are funded, and everything is reductive economics. It reduces everything down. Even the Arts Council they weren't interested in what you were doing. It's just as long as you spend what you say you're going to spend and you don't embarrass them. That's all it was about. And so there's these kind of positive affirmations. There's this feeling inside this thing that I felt like I was going to explode. This little thing here was we hired a massive gallery, 2,500 square foot gallery for 2 weeks, and every day we explored what it is to be alive, be creative, and have a way forward. And out of that came the creative nature we're living now. This is the thing to address the financial problems we have. How do we get autonomy from the nuances of arts funding, from the endless charities, the endless committees that have their own personal agendas? How do we get past that? We've got to create an income stream. And this is a very advanced piece of work we've been doing with students from an architectural college that are looking at sustainable design and well-being. So this idea is that we get access to a local woodland, Lesners Abbey Wood, 210 acres of woodland owned by Bexley Council. We look at a way of working with nature. That is coppicing. Coppicing is basically woodland management, where you take down a tree and it throws out multi-stems. It's old ways of working woodlands. We don't use it anymore because it's way too people heavy. It's not economical to do, so we don't do it. But it's the only way forward to use forestry, because it replenishes more than you take away. So it creates, forget planting 1 billion trees. We got to coppice our existing woodlands that give us a complete kickback straight away. And so the idea of circular economy is, and as it comes down, it's linked within communities, keeps it local, and then the net profit from that is education, community, and localism, working through civic makers, creating resources for other makers, and creating a network, a hive mentality to keep each other alive and going. Other counterpoint to this is what keeps me going. I had a collapse because at the end of the day, I was at the top of my pyramid, everything finished with my own intellect, and that ain't no good. So I have a meditative practice, I have a spiritual practice, and that spiritual practice allows me to do all I do, and allows me to do things on a very ambitious scale, and allows me to juggle millions of plates, and allows me to surrender my ego, because my ego is the thing, as any artist knows, your ego is what you're battling against every day. You know, just look at Anish Kapoor, just look at Anthony Gormley, you know, egos, lunatics, psychotic, you know, so we don't want to go there. So this is my meditative practice. It's about avoiding burnout. It's finding a way to have a truly sustainable practice, about self-care, becoming more robust, not losing compassion, because as we get more stressed, we become more singular, more selfish. And so it gives me a strong mental health to be able to deal with all of the challenges you find when you deal in the public realm. The power of collaboration is central to everything I do, and has always been the same way. I like to collaborate. It's also changing the Western art narrative, which is, you know, it's just a certain white narrative that is just, you know, you're in a subservient position, you make it for wealthy people, and they become the benefactors to you. But just remember which side your bread's buttered on, and just remember that you didn't go to Eton. So there you go. So finding balance in every day, and this thing helps me do that. What I'm chasing is spontaneous creativity. Can you sustain that? And what is the end goal? What am I aiming for? Do I want to be rich and famous? Do I want to be? No, I just want to perpetuate this state of grace, this spontaneous creative thing. I want to feel it every day. I want to be joyful, and I want to be compassionate. I want to be a nice person to be around. So this is one of our hubs, one of our things. And this has been working over this for 3 years, fully building up a relationship with the landowners, the land managers at Bexley Council. And the last year we've been developed this with a whole host of people. And we've basically got the funding in place. All we're waiting for now is everything in this country is land ownership. We don't own it, they do, and you will never own it. And even councils, which are supposed to be there as a duty of care to the wider public, they think they're a private corporation, they think they own it. They don't. So you have to work very smart to get it off of them. We've got this far. We've had a massive consultation, all sorts of things happening at Lesners Abbey Woods. And yesterday, the planning application went in. It's a massive thing. And we've got money sitting in the side from Heritage Lottery Fund. But if we don't get it all sorted by November, we lose that money. So it goes. And so the outcome so far is I feel more connected. I feel stronger as an artist and a human being. I'm able to manage all obstacles that present themselves much better. I feel more creative now than I ever have, which is a lovely thing after 31 years. I've had some ups and downs. I'm connecting to a much wider demographic, and I'm finding something now that has a universality to it. There's a yearning through COVID, through lockdown. There is a stripping away. People have had time to reflect. And this thing, this creative spontaneity, this nature thing, the demographic is huge, and there seems to be a need for it. And so I found balance within myself, and I need to sustain that. So that's what I do. So that's me. There you go. Cheers. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. So that was 4 years.
Thank you, Stephen.
It's all right.
Do you want to stop sharing your...
I'm just going to stop sharing that now. There we go. Lovely.
Cool. Has anyone got any questions? I feel that you were kind of ahead of the game, because during COVID, everybody had this big love affair with nature, didn't they? People kind of rediscovered nature. Who knows if that's going to last?
Yeah.
But I just wondered if people kind of latched onto you, or if you had more kind of interest in your work because of COVID and people reconnecting with nature, whether they kind of saw your practice and latched onto it because of what you've done. That makes sense.
Maybe. I've seen a yearning way before that, I'd say, yeah, 2016, 17, but people got off the hamster wheel in COVID. So they actually physically had the time, and there was also lots of options were closed down. So all the distractions of retail therapy, of your life just going on the same as it does, stopped. And people all went for walks, didn't they? You went for a walk.
I think it was too full. It was too full of people.
I agree. Yeah, packed. And
I think there were lots of people on the cars. You got the cars. So they're everywhere.
Yeah. So in a way, what it's shown us is people, even with all that freedom, people still are finding it very hard in finding a way in which to engage. You can walk through a woodland with your dog, a friend, but you've got to stop in woodland. You've got to have a reason to stop. I found an amazing piece of research by a ranger in the national parks in America. And he said, if you get someone to stop for more than 25 minutes in nature, their empathy and compassion for issues around nature are like 400%, increased by 400%. So that was a piece of thing that I saw that I thought, wow, okay, how do we stop people? How do you hold their attention? Well, what you do is you create a place, you create a camp, like a little kid. What do? You put a tarpaulin up, you put something up to create like a little cathedral, and a big parachute, and then you put a fire in it to keep people warm so you can be there all the time. Then you put a circle in of seats. All of a sudden, you've got a space that holds people. And then you can introduce anything. You can introduce an activity as basic as meditation, and as advanced as weaving or carving or something that is ground to the earth. And because of its simplistic, repetitious nature, people get lost in it. They disconnect from their mind by the endless processing of, which a standard artistic Western tradition of art is that we process everything through our mind. Everything is judging ourselves with other artists, historically where we're placed within that, and aesthetic, our own aesthetic criteria, our own theological, whatever it is. All of those things are taking place, and you're drawing. All of that's going on. How do you free yourself from that? How do you get into that state of grace where everyone knows this? You're in your studio, something happens, you're flowing, you're in the zone, it's not conscious, you're beyond the intellect, you're in it. How do you keep in that sweet spot? How do you keep there? And that's what we're trying to do with people. Move away from our own conscious insecurities of position, career, all of that nonsense that we've been given in conditioning. And that is out there, and that's really hard to break free of. And it's very stifling for creativity, and also for compassionately connecting to each of you, and each of you connecting to each other, because we're all told to be individual rock stars. We all want to be in the white cube. We all want to be, that person, and to hell with everyone else, walk over them. The system can only support 50 at a time. Let someone die and you get in there. That's the Damien Hirst and the other people. That's all it is. So are we going to create another narrative? Is there a better future? I bloody well hope so, because that is shit. It really is. It's of no value. So where do we go? That, like you said, is a desire. But, the machine starts again. The wheel starts again. We all get back on. We all want to go on holiday, and then starts over again. But it isn't sustainable, because it's getting more and more precious. Society is heaping more and more individual responsibility on. Every business is getting it. So it's like Argos. You do all the work. They take all the profit, So I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I'm a dreamer, I hope I'm not the only one. There you go. But yeah, that's it. Yeah.
What's your view on social media? Things like Instagram.
It's the devil. It's the devil. It's crack cocaine. It is, but it is a necessary devil. It is a brilliant way of getting a narrative out, a story, but it it needs to be refined. I've got as far as I can get with the way I'm working, and I've now, sadly, the guy I was working with got COVID. He's been in hospital. He nearly went into ICU. He's out. He's getting better, but he's coming in as a business partner for me. But he's an artist, a creative, a filmmaker, a musician. But he was suffering so much financially. He started making movies for the Labour Party, and he's worked for 4 years in the belly of the beast, the right-hand man to Jeremy Corbyn. And now he's seen Keir Starmer come in. He's lost his will to live, and he is, you know, and he's now got a mortgage, and he's going to be able to buy a house. So he's now joining me as a 50% partner, and he's going to help move us to the next level, which is he understands all of the SEO, how to use YouTube, how to get your message out, and it's very, very difficult because there are so many algorithms stopping you, because all the time they want you to pay for more and more and more. Anyway, he's got a huge network of people, and what we're trying to do is subvert this specialism, this knowledge bank, from dreadful things like politics to real things, grassroots stuff. And he wants, with his whole network of friends, want to bring this professionalism and put it to things of higher value. That's it, and that's what we're trying to do. I don't know if we're going to make it, but we're going to try, you know.
I'm going to lean in and ask a question that's related to that. So it's really interesting hearing you describe the social media and those tools.
Yeah.
And I think I agree with you, they serve a purpose.
Yeah.
And I'd be intrigued, but I wonder if they are, I'm not sure entirely at what stage you're at with your project in the Abbey Woods.
Yeah.
But, I mean, are they the tools that you use to invite people to come and be part of your conversation? No, they're not the tools that we use either. They're
No.
Yeah, they serve a different purpose.
No, it serves a different purpose. What it does is it illustrates our projects to our funders. It's a stop thing for them to just check us out and check the narrative. That's all it is. No, our grassroots stuff is old-fashioned posters, leaflets, being at places to talk to people, face-to-face stuff. That's what it is, you know. Lesnar's Abbey Wood is Thamesmead. There's huge redevelopment going on there. There's huge embedded social problems. There's £1 billion coming in. So all the big boys there, everyone's raping and pillaging and nicking and stealing and taking as much as they can. And in there is a very battered community. And I have a special place in my heart there because my nan was moved out of poverty into Thamesmead in 1971. And I remember as a child going there, and I thought it was Butlins, because there was these concrete tubes and modernism and great big expanses of water and fountains. As my nan had an indoor loo, my granddad didn't like it. He didn't think a loo should be inside. He had a yard, you know, and it's like, it's not right. You shouldn't have a toilet inside. So I have a very strong, so now seeing it now on the other side, the dystopian nature of it, the neglected sink estate type thing. And then now the new money coming and all this Chinese money and all this development and kicking out all the people and moving them out to Leeds and God knows where, you know, and it's trying to hold on to people and helping them process this shit. Helping them connect to the woods instead of them seeing it as a dark forest like Red Riding Hood where they're going to get raped in, or go and do something antisocial like, you know, taking drugs or, you know, drinking, that kind of stuff that younger kids do, or riding their motorbikes and destroying stuff, or digging up cables and stealing stuff, or fly tipping. And that is the narrative it's had. So you've got to reappropriate it, and that's very difficult. Because there are so many social problems and so many different agendas and so many power players. Even like, so there's the big boys are in there. So you've got groundwork, you know, if you've ever dealt with groundwork, you know, vampires, you know, the parasitic vampires that drain away all the money and no money ever reaches the ground floor. 31 years I've been fighting them. Peabody used to be amazing in the 90s, or dynamic, amazing. Now they're a huge landowner who are risk averse and don't do anything, and then are just are taken advantage by huge developers. So it's locked, it's in stasis. It's pitiful. It's just it's a sort of metaphor for the world at the moment. And and we're building a volunteer program that we keep building up, and then another lockdown comes and another bowling ball comes through, and then we're told that we can't even meet outside with our groups, and then it goes on to Zoom. Our members don't have laptops, they don't have the internet. So there you go.
And there's something really complex, isn't there, about moving a conversation about a physical space in the outdoors into a conversation that's contained in an electronic space, which typically has to happen indoors and isn't tactile.
It's very difficult. It's very difficult. And we've had like whole programs where we tried to get people laptops and stuff, and it's just so much dysfunction and so many layers of problems. Those problems disappear when we meet by the kiosk and have a cup of tea and stand out and talk about dogs and sticks and all sorts of stuff. It all disappears. You see, when we go to this stuff, it just amplifies the disparity.
Tell us about the sticks behind you.
Okay, so there you go. So this is.
Tell us about the sticks in your wood. Tell us about things like that.
Okay, so I have a network of places that I'm bringing back to life to give us materials. So we've got willow beds we've been bringing back to life for 6 years, basically old willow beds. So they're part of the ancient forest of Oxley's Wood, and that's divided over 3 bits of land. One of them is a private trust, one of them is a private, semi-private community farm, and the other one belongs to Greenwich Council. And then there's another one 100 miles north of here. We're working with an eco thing that we've been working for 8 years. I've been working for that is an eco farm that's a gathering of kids that what do they call them, homeschool kids, and they've been, I mean, they're really off grid. And they're now finally got products that they're selling online. So they're distilling organic stuff and making tonics. So they got made. Anyway, that's a huge thing. And we work a lot with them, and I get a lot of my best willow from them. So I go up there and cut that in February, and then we do lots of amazing stuff with them and those people. And so they're amazing people. It's a whole farm thing there. And then the rest, like I say, come here. And then these bigger logs here, these bits here, these bits, that is sweet chestnut. And that's what I want from Lesners Abbey, sweet chestnut and hazel. And at the moment I go down to, we've broken an amazing relationship with a trust called the Olga Trust, an old trust. And they came together for people like this were looking for freedom to express themselves. And they had this thing where they collected 5p's, and they collected for years 5p pieces. And then they bought a piece of land. And then people can then just free, if you remember, can go on the land. And there's pagans there, there's people that go and do their rituals. People just want to be free from the madness of the world, homeschoolers, dreamers, schemers, whatever, all go and share this land. And they invited us down to help move their collective members to another level, to introduce more empowerment through making. And we spent the most beautiful weekend there, sleeping on bluebells in truly the most beautiful woodland, which is 8 miles from Hastings. And I'm hoping to run courses there, and it is staggering. And if you look them up, the Olga Trust, they're a modest little, hello, oh lovely livery of leather. Yes, so that's that's the sort of materials. And then also, I don't know if you can see, but lots of bits of wood everywhere. So
why sweet chestnut and hazel?
Okay, so ancient knowledge. every wood has a property and has a quality, and that's been lost in the mists of time with the 1950s and us being detached from the land. Sweet chestnut was known as pauper's oak, and that was allowed by your peasants like us. Wasn't owned by the crown, so all the oak was owned by the crown. That's for warships and for the war effort. But coppice wood was seen as lowly wood, and that belonged to bodgers. And bodgers, you know, and even the derivation of bodging, bodge job, is a negative thing, isn't it? It's a bodge job. A bodger was someone who worked in the woods, who worked highly sophisticated, managing the woodland and making modest furniture. And there you go. And sweet chestnut is basically the longest lasting, strongest wood for outside. Its feet won't rot. So it's called pauper's oak. So that's why it is. And it grows on a 15-year cycle. And you cut a forest, you cut it down, it grows up at 15, and you move to another area, and there you go. Yeah. And then there's willow. That's what you use: willow, hazel, sweet chestnut, and then all the other wood is urban salvage wood. So we're stopping it going to the chipper. We're part of a thing called the Urban Network, which is really massive out in the States. We've been mentored by a group over there that's done this thing for 30 years, and they are just awesome. But they just do things like America does on just a massive scale. So yeah, that's the kind of narrative of the stuff in my space. And to get through economically through COVID, I had to do a collaboration and make high-end what do you call it, rich people stuff for like these massive bowls and meditation seats, you know, for all those people that live in Holland Park and have got 4,000 quid to spend on a bowl, you know. That's who we're spending. So. Yeah, so if you want to follow that, it's on Hidden Gems Design on Instagram. So that's that. And I've done a collaboration with a guy on my site. I'm here at Thameside Studios. There's 500 micro businesses on this site, and we all hive cultured in lockdown, and we all network to try and make a living. And as my, you know, £60,000 worth of bookings fell away, and what am I going to do? You know, my rent's £1,500 a month, and I think, okay, just on the studio. So, you know, so then I just collaborated with this guy, and we started making products. And he's just, you know, he's a fashion photographer. He photographs it, gets it up. He's got all the clients, and then off it goes. And then that just keeps this project going and not dying. And that subsidizes my work in the communities that is much more fragile. Money comes in now, you know, there's funding, you know, comes in, there's funding gaps, and I stem that with my stuff. I just put the money in and just carry it over, and then just get match funding. So I pay for my time, and they pay for materials or tools or whatever. Yeah. There you go. Did I talk too much?
No,
Really interesting. Really interesting.
Can I ask a question? This is the kind that it's so interesting what you're doing. And there are so many different aspects to it. The thing that I was thinking about while you were talking, which I hadn't really thought about that before, was about what you were talking about coppicing. And can you hear me okay?
It's just a little bit echoey, a bit far away. Sorry, yeah.
When you were talking about coppicing,
yeah.
And I was just thinking about labour-intensive work, and how it goes completely in the opposite direction to the development of capitalism, or the development of capital, that it's all about making things faster and making things more automated so that you can get through a process faster and they're cheaper. So this is kind of going in completely the opposite direction, so that it's more labour-intensive, that you have a direct relationship with the materials that you're using. And it's slower, it means you get paid for the work that you do. So it's better for people, but not necessarily a money-making venture. So I think it's brilliant, and I think that's the way that the economy should be going, that we should be moving away from automation and towards making things ourselves. But how economically viable is it?
Okay, so the two ways you do it is not economically viable. So you've got to turn it into something that is. So the two routes we're going down is social prescribing. So GPs socially prescribing as not putting someone on antidepressants, they send them to us. That's one. The other one is experiences. giving people experiences. So that's the higher end, that's the middle class people with disposable income. And the third one, which we want to try and do, but this is further down the road, which is basically getting a team of the volunteers together, and then using the Lesners Abbey, that building I showed you, having a kiosk to sell stuff. And we then go around all the different boroughs and we cut down, because they all need their stuff coppiced. We go down and they give us access to it. We coppice it all, and then we sell it through our network for garden poles and for garden products. So that's our desire. So then we've got three things. We've got the stuff being cut and being used. We got the experience, and we got social prescribing. Otherwise, if we don't have the social prescribing, it's merely we're attending to middle class people with disposable income, and the people that most need it can't afford to do it. So that's our response to that question. Yeah.
Have you found a commercial model for social prescribing? Because I find that unlike pharmaceutical companies, as offering a different kind of support isn't actually something that, we're meant to be offering it for free, seems to be the assumption.
Okay, so what we're up against at the moment is very early days of social prescribing, and you've got to remember that NHS budgets are ring-fenced. All the big boys are in there, all the people are just at the trough eating away. They don't want it to disseminate. So you're up against that. But what's going to happen is as this comes more and more of a problem, as the reductive economics cook everyone down to total enslavement, people are going to start popping, just giving up. They just won't be able to do it. We've passed the sweet spot a long time ago. Everyone's now into reserves. Everyone's being told to do more for less, blah, 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 blah. So, that's the nature of this thing that we're up against. And this is a world problem. We've got to have some solutions when the shit hits the fan, and it is hitting the fan, and it will. And as the NHS won't be able to support, smaller organisations will have to step in, and it will happen. And we just got to practice that thing and get little champions and little pieces of people supporting it. And then you get local, the key one for us is local councillors. They have a lot of power, and they're very dogmatic. They can just spend a budget like that, so they can direct something to you if you can prove something. And also, most councillors and most people that work in those things are goal hangers. They wait for a project and they just tap it in and then say, well, I've been working on this all the time. Then they want to take all the glory. Let them have the glory if they opened a couple of doors for us. But we understand the situation, but it is very difficult. It's very frustrating. We are hoping to bring some heavyweights in, some political people like from Westminster, take them away from that and get them, beating the shit out of these people, because they're dreadful. If you're up against those pharmaceutical companies that are just dreadful. They're like Machiavellian. They will shake your hand, and they're like Boris Johnson. They smell of charm, and in the back they've got a knife in your back, and they're just slowly disemboweling you. And that is what they do, and it is that basic. And so vote Tory, they smell nice, speaking. So it's that's the idiots of, bless them. They've totally won when the working class decides to go for Boris.
How did that happen? I don't know how that happened.
Well, because the Labour took their eye off the ball. They don't understand the changing thing out there. They don't understand the power of individualism, of aspiration, of stuff, of wanting more stuff.
When he held that fish, didn't it? Was it in Harrogate where he held that fish? He held that fish. Boris held a fish. I can't remember where it was. Was it Harrogate or somewhere like that?
It was somewhere, yeah.
And that seemed to be it.
Yeah. Oh, he's a man of the people. You don't mind touching a fish. I don't know. But I think there's a lot of lost people out there. I include myself, and every now and again you get found and you find yourself and then lose yourself again. But if you're moving away from compassion, you're moving away from joy, you're enslaving people. Can't be right. We know that. So how do we hold the light? How do we keep our joy? How do we keep our practices going? it's really tough. It's really tough, you know.
It's a really good question to kind of go to lunch with. I feel as if we could talk to you for ages, Stephen.
Come and visit us.
Where are you? Where is this room? Where are you?
We're currently, I'm going to show you.
Show me your place.
Oh, the camera.
No, that's not the camera. No,
That's another camera.
You can hear.
Yeah, you're in a big hall.
I'm going to change. Does that work? So we're looking over from the Hackney side to the Walthamstow side of the marshes on the River Lee.
Oh, I know that. I walked past that the other weekend.
Ah.
My sister-in-law just lives around the corner.
So, and we're getting ready for the art trail to happen in and around Walthamstow from the 1st to the 18th of July.
Yeah.
And all the artists here are preparing outdoor interventions and projects to pilot.
Wonderful.
So come and visit.
I will do. Yes.
It's wonderful if you.
I'd love to, and the same stands to you. Come and visit me. You know, I'd love to. You know, these meetings are just, you know, like fleeting, aren't they? And I think it is for us to decide whether to weave that into the tapestry of your life. You know, because we are stronger together. You know, we will be crushed if we're on our own out there. And don't buy into the idea that someone's going to steal your idea. There's only one you in the world. There is only one you. And it doesn't matter if everyone's done the same thing as you had, your same thoughts, it would be totally different. So you don't have to ever be defensive about your stuff. Just be really open. And I think it's the way we have the way forward is for that. I'd love to come and see what you're up to. Send us a doodah.
Gorgeous.
Right.
Thank you so much for your time, Stephen, today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. No, thank you. Thanks for inviting us. Thanks, Del.